Hello and welcome to the podcast, Amy and Tiger. So happy to have you here.
Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, really interesting to chat with you guys. First of all, I love having two people on because we get both sides of the story, and that's always fun. And then you guys have like an interesting, unique situation, which we'll get into. And so I'm really looking forward to discussing that as well. So, first, just why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about how you came to foster to adopt and how many children you have and what that was all like.
Okay. Do you want me to kind of start, Ty?
Sure.
So we met old, and we're both living in Los Angeles at the time, and madly in love, and realized we wanted kids, but that at the end of the day, it didn't really matter to us how we got them. And biologically. And I'd had a lot of health issues when I was a younger woman. And so I was a little fearful, too, of carrying. And so we just kind of dove in and took PS MAP classes through LA County, which, in hindsight is its own crazy story, of course. And
Can you tell the listeners what that is if they don't know?
I'm so sorry. PS MAP is basically a required training, and ours was 6 weeks in 8-hour days, and we took it day-long classes every Saturday that you're required to have before you can be a licensed foster parent. And so the process is very thorough. You do a background check, you have to do fingerprinting and all of that, and I think it just kind of weeds people out a little bit. Like, are you really even interested in this, or was this just a passing fancy?
Right.
And so we did that, and we currently have an effervescently beautiful, vibrant 9-year-old, third grader, almost fourth grader as of 2 days from now.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a really traumatic process, but are super happy with the results.
Yeah. How old was she when you began
She
fostering?
was she was just over one. She just cleared her. She came to live with us on April 20th, and her birthday had been earlier that year, her first birthday.
Okay. And was this your first like foster experience, or had you had someone else
Is
before?
the only one we had.
Okay.
Zarina
Okay.
was our one and done. I mean, Z was our one and done.
Yeah. Um, and so let's see, did you explore other options or did you just decide like right away, like, we're not going to have biological children, let's do foster to adopt? Or did you like kind of look at other options and then land on foster to adopt?
We briefly had done fertility treatment
Mm-hmm.
situations for to assist in the biological
Mm-hmm.
attainment of a child. Um, I don't know what that means. As Amy said, we're kind of old, so
Yeah,
uh,
and what it
I
came
can
down
uh,
relate.
to,
and then adoption, foster to adopt specifically was basically the only choice after for
Yeah.
us, both emotionally and I guess
fiscally,
well,
Fiscally.
that too,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'll add a little to this. I was
Mm-hmm.
working at a time for a fabulous company, and there was a project manager who had adopted 2 children, and she did it through an agency. And because she was a project manager, she had literally this 4-inch binder that she's like, "Here, Amy," and it basically just outlined a whole bunch of paths and different processes and things they had to do through their process.
Wow.
um, your life before you came to us, so many different things. And after looking at that, we were in a place where we were still doing fertility, but it wasn't to the point where it's getting super expensive.
Yeah.
But that would be the next step.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would we pay $30,000 for this when there's so many kids in the world? And it just aligned with our philosophical values,
Yes.
and that's why we went that route. And then why we went directly through LA County, I think
We never
we
considered
wouldn't we
anything
wouldn't
else.
do it
Yeah.
that same way now.
Uh-huh.
We have other
Interesting.
friends. Yeah, we have other friends that adopted, but they at least went through a nonprofit agency or had a better guide,
Right.
per se. And we were
Right.
just really going independent.
Right. For listeners who might not be familiar, there's basically two ways you can do it, as Amy just said. So you can go directly through the county to get certified and move through that process, or you can use a foster family agency. That's what I did because it was recommended to me. I had no idea, and I'm so grateful that I did. And what happens is, in a way, it creates more quote unquote work for you because you have double social workers, right? So you have visits from your foster family agency social worker and from the county. However, on the positive side, when you have an agency with you, they're really the only people that are in the equation for you. Like they're there to advocate for you and obviously the child. Whereas if you go straight through the county, you're really there's nobody there really for you. Was that your experience?
For sure. We actually, we had gone through the PS Map classes and we're and we're basically in the foster system with directly through the county, and then we decided that maybe we should go through an agency, and we actually started the process with an agency when the
Ah,
county all of a sudden approached us
Yeah,
with our first foster to adopt. Uh,
ah,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
um,
okay.
so
So then you were just
that
like,
actually
we're
happened. Yeah,
yeah,
we were like on this other track, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, well, let's go ahead and
Yeah.
go
gotcha.
push over.
Simply because you're blind and we didn't even know what was happening,
Right.
with the county at all.
And for sure,
I,
in terms of advocacy, in terms of advocacy at through the county for foster families, it's no, it doesn't. There's nobody there that fits that job.
Aha, right, exactly. Exactly. They're there to advocate for the kids and then
Right.
the bio family and all of that. Yeah.
the mission statement of DCFS is reunification with family.
Mm,
And that's not us, or
right.
that wasn't us during the process. And so,
Yep.
from friends who did it the recommended way, in hindsight, that you did, Rachel, our friends that did it that same way, have an added kind of level of blessing where they still have a resource now where they're almost like extended family.
Yes.
And we have some dear friends that adopted and have had the birth mother has had two other children since the child they initially adopted,
Yes.
and they've been
Hmm.
the first stop to see if
Yes.
they are interested in expanding their family. And they did once, but the second time they're just like, we're also old and we're at our
Right.
capacity and we want to give the best for this life for this child. But they were able to work with another family in that same nonprofit. So they will
Aha.
still have that connection and that relationship over the years for the children, right?
Mhm. That's amazing. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Um, Question to you, if you do go through the county, it would be my I would think this, but maybe I'm wrong, that you would still be if you've adopted a child and then it turns out that they have a biological another one, the birth mom, would you still be the first stop? Like would they inquire to you
I, I,
first, or you're not sure?
We
I,
don't have our license anymore. Sorry.
Right.
Tiger's right. We don't have our license anymore,
Uh huh.
but we also had a really unique situation that I'm sure we're going to get to. But
Mm-hmm.
where Zarina has a stepbrother that was also in the system that was adopted by a biological family, or not adopted, that was in
Right.
the home of a biological family member. So, and she's still a licensed person as far as we know.
Uh huh.
And I would assume because of that would likely be the first stop, but we don't know.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yep. Yep. Yeah. I think that at least what I understand from our agency is even if we let our certification lapse, they would still notify us if they were looking for a home for
Oh,
this the
good.
biological sibling. I would hope that that would be the case. Of course, if there was other biological family members at that point that came forward, maybe that wouldn't. But I would really hope that they would do that. I think that they would. I think that's protocol. I'm not sure though. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, so let's talk about so she was just a little over a year when you brought her home. And what were those early days like for you? Because something that I haven't talked a whole lot about with people, but something that certainly was my experience is that it is the strangest thing to like one day not have a baby and all of the sudden you have a baby and it's really a lot because of just yeah anyway I want to hear what your experience of that was. Did you feel that way?
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, it was a little. Yeah, one day there's just the crib in the house that we put there, and and the drawers and some clothes and all that stuff, and then the next day, boom, there she is, zipping through the house at full steam, just almost like dropped from heaven. But
Mm,
just kind of like Bing, she's there magically out of this kind of magic chaos that kind of and all of a sudden, Bing, there she is.
yeah,
It's it's a different kind of adjustment than when you got 9 months on the run up to getting
yeah,
an infant.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Different story.
I'll expand on that too. We through the training, mentally, you kind of know, what the path will be. You might get a call in the middle of the night,
Right.
etc. But it you're not having baby showers. As a female, you're not seeing your body change, and everybody going, "How much longer? Oh, enjoy it while you can, and keep sleeping," or what all of that ramp
Yeah,
up
yeah.
doesn't exist. And so it is. I literally remember after we picked up Zarina, which was literally a 15-minute meeting, we're driving away and we made a comment to each other of like, oh my gosh, I feel like we just stole a child. Like, I mean, you just like all of a
Yes.
sudden there's this little bug in the back, smiling away and just chatting. And
Yeah.
I mean, gooing. And it was just very, very surreal.
Yeah, it really is. And thank you for bringing up. I just want to touch on that for a moment. Another thing we haven't talked about yet on this show is that that feeling of otherness, right? Like I remember being so just feeling really othered without them meaning to. But anytime I would be at a playground or I would be at like a birthday party or anything, and they're all talking about, oh, what was your birth like? What was your birth like? All of the stuff that new moms talk about that I couldn't participate in those conversations. And that there was a definitely like I felt some grief around that. Just not being able to like, yeah, I can't, and they'd be like, well, you've experienced birth, so you can do anything, and I was like,
Okay.
yeah, no, actually, I haven't, but I still feel like, anyway,
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Yeah, there's
acknowledge that.
and also we missed the first year of her life, so
Yes, yes.
that kind of and we honestly we don't know a whole lot about other than what we were able to
Uh-huh.
glean during the adoption process,
Hmm.
and so and so there's other like oh, those sleepless nights, whatever, and we're like, she kind of went to bed pretty easy, you know what I'm saying?
Does she, what is her ethnicity? Is it the same as yours or
No,
is
she's
it
African
different?
Mm,
American.
Okay.
yeah, she's black.
So that also is another thing. My son is African American, and so then there's also that other layer too of like people maybe not thinking that this is your child or have you experienced any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
lady. I remember once I was in a coffee bean, with her. She's still pre-verbal, and I know, and I'm in her stroller, and this lady, very, whatever, nice white lady comes over, and then she just says, "So what country is she from?" And I said, "Watts." and
Yeah.
she said, "Oh, I thought she was African." I was like, "Yeah, I wonder why you would think that."
Yeah.
That kind of thing, like all this, like she might, people do kind of automatically assume that we adopted her from another country,
Right.
because it's obvious from the drop that she must be adopted if we're both there.
Right.
So yeah, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
It's I like how you said it, the other part. It is very other. Um, and that's only going to continue going on, obviously. Um, and she's aware of it,
Hmm.
too. But it is very strange if, we're walking down the street and she gets ahead of me or behind me. I will sometimes see people looking around to see who's with this child. Is someone watching her?
Hmm. Hmm.
In a
Hmm.
protective way, but for the most
Right.
part. But it's just, that's an oddity too. It's like, oh, and so I often just very purposely am just very close to her anyway and vigilant,
Yeah.
obviously. But um, that's a little odd, and especially like we changed schools during COVID too, because we did a physical move, and even just going to school the first dozen times, you're
Yeah.
meeting new faces like, oh, or even kids. It's like, you're Zarina's mom.
Yeah.
You're just like, yeah, I
Yeah.
am. And
Yeah.
we're very open about really everything. I mean,
Right.
just because it's necessary, we feel like.
Right. And how does she have feelings about it? Has she expressed anything about it, or
I'm about being adopted or about
uh,
our different races or
yeah,
both.
either or, because you said
Yeah,
she's
yeah. I mean, she
9,
says,
almost
yeah.
9.
She like,
Yeah.
yeah. She like, yeah. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
she thinks the whole stereotype of a Karen is hilarious, and really likes to address it with us, and about white people who behave that way,
Uh-huh.
um, and so, because she doesn't quite, she finds it very humorous, and she, you know um, occasionally she'll be, I don't know, when George Floyd, when the George Floyd situation went down,
Yeah.
and that coincided with our move too,
Yeah.
and everything. You find yourself having to address these subjects from just an informed outsider, as best you can, to
Yep.
your child, who is going to, is getting this at the same time, and around the same time, Kamala Harris becomes
Mhm.
president. So that's also a big thing for our girl, and
Sure.
and being able to buttress that, and
Yep.
so, but the mixed signals she gets from media, from other people, about our differences, but both visually and culturally, she finds interesting and often very funny, and usually has lots of questions that I vainly try to answer, and Amy probably does a much better job.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you been able to, like, are there any ways that you can support her? And I ask this as a parent myself, like, all the time. Support her in, like, having friends of all different races, or, like, especially obviously African American. Like, for me, it was really important to bring him to a black barber shop. Like,
Right.
he's got to go to a black barber shop. That's a really big
Of
deal.
course.
It's a
Yeah.
cultural thing, and we
It's
found one
huge.
here in North Hollywood that's just so cool, and we love it so much, and they treat him so great. It's just such a great experience every time we go there.
One of the things Z likes to point out, is I'm the one who usually does her hair, and takes care of it,
Yeah.
on mostly a daily basis, and so she likes to point out, your hair is nothing like mine. You don't understand how this feels. And I'm like, I'm
Right.
sorry.
Right.
But yeah, for, we try to make sure when she does, I'm sorry, my hair is doing something crazy now. When it is time for her to go to the hairdresser, we obviously always make sure it's a black
Yeah.
hairdresser, or black hair shop,
Yeah.
and you know and we have other, and and we have other friends. We moved to a place that is a bit wider than where we lived in Los Angeles. So there's sometimes I'm the obnoxious adopted parent where when I see another African American child, I'm like, "Don't you want to go? Look, friend, look there's a friend right over there," and she look at me like.
Yeah, I think keeping her in touch with her culture is critical. And so any events that we have, we're not that, we're about 70 miles from LA now. And so it's not a huge jaunt.
Yeah, it's not
and we go back and visit our friends, pretty regularly. But the diversity is huge. And just really talking about our differences is a lot of the way that we do it on our daily basis. And then honestly, I think just answering everything, even if it's a hard question, in the same way that I would answer it if it was Tiger asking me, maybe with a little less swearing. But
oh, did I swear? I'm so sorry.
But very authentically, and just so she knows she's going to get the truth if she's asking us something. And if we don't know, then we figure it out together. But that was a big part of our philosophy when we were adopting and our commitment. And it was a big part of the training too, is that the odds of you getting a child that is of a different race than yourself matters. And having those conversations actually with your extended family. Like I knew my immediate family would be like all on board, but everybody's got that uncle, or there's somebody out there that you're like, the racists might have a problem with this one. And just making the boundaries. So that's
how did you handle that? Like did you handle it directly, or did you just like, okay, we'll wait and see if something comes up and then we'll say something? Or
I think it's more that person wasn't much in our lives anyway. And so it was easy to continue that distancing, except for like a very big family reunion. And then I was just glued to her if he was around, And so, and correcting and seeing her, I think Tiger's beautiful at this, but if somebody misspeaks or, even says something in kind of the wrong way, he'll do a very polite call out. Just so she knows to stand up and protect herself too. That was kind of vague, but
no, I mean, this stuff, it's not like easy to talk about, but I think it's really important, especially like as adoptive parents, just making sure that you're aware of like what you're taking on. And I have a very good, one of my best friends is Black, and she said to me like, honey, you're adopting a Black boy. Like, what this means, right? She's like, this is a really big responsibility. And she's like, and I'm going to be in your life for that little boy, like no matter what. And you better keep me around. And like, God bless her, my friend Robin. But yeah, it's just, it's something that needs to be talked about more. And I do agree that they did discuss this in training, and that's a great thing. But a lot of people, like on the outside, don't see it. And there's also the blowback, like there's pushback from people of color who maybe feel like it's not okay. And I know that is something that, me putting out this podcast is, that might come up. And so I think it's important to dialogue about it. And like you were saying, be open about it. And I'm willing to hear the perspectives and share mine, and so it's just it's kind of a hard thing to discuss.
My favorite thing would always be if I had Zarina with me at like a Target or something. I'm in the textured hair section. I must have just been a magnet for nice women wanting to come up to me and help me with this situation on the textured hair section, and just they take one look at me and go, "Oh, poor dear, come here.
Let me help you.
No, this over here. You need
moisturize."
You moisturize. Yes, there's actually a woman, and I'll put it in the show notes. Her tag, her name is escaping me right now, but it has an Instagram that's solely focused on educating white parents. Do you know this?
I think I've heard of it. I haven't seen it or heard it, but I've heard of it. I think
about hair.
we
And she
watched
has
a lot.
courses and all kinds of stuff, and it's just a great resource. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
I do listen to a couple of podcasts from transracial adoptees, and I
Hmm.
think that's where I've heard about this podcast before.
Yes, yes. There's one Angela adoptee. Do you know her? I
Yeah,
think that
that's yeah,
she's
yeah, yeah,
yeah, and she's got great perspective, and yeah, like I said, I think it's important for us to hear all the
yeah.
perspectives. Um, and yeah, I'll link to that in the show notes for sure. The other thing I'll just say, and then I want to get back to like the story part of it for you guys, is that my eyes have been opened to tokenism in a way that I kind of knew about before. Of course, I knew about it, but I didn't really, and I'll just be completely honest, like I didn't really understand how little representation there is for instance in just media. I mean, I used to think like, oh, like this show is diverse and this is great. Like even with my daughter who's half Filipina, but presents pretty white. I would be like, oh, this is a good diverse show. And now like with my son, just something I'm just like, there's one black person on this.
Right.
Like that's not okay. Like
Yeah.
it just is something that really was something that I didn't. I have to call out my own like institutionalized racism or whatever. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that. And so it's interesting the
No,
levels that awaken.
yeah.
Yeah.
Considered myself, fairly woke
Right.
for most of my life, and just you're just just seeing the world through the eyes of my daughter, and just even the stuff about the Little Mermaid. When now I'm like, it's like her eyes. I mean, she's not even a really big, huge Little Mermaid fan, but she,
Yeah.
just when she saw the trailer, her eyes just kind of gleamed up, and she like, and kind of turns to me and smiles at me, and I'm like, I
Yep.
know, yay.
It's
And
awesome.
just that, and Kamala Harris, and
Yep.
and the type of, and getting that representation, now I see, I guess now I see it as the only thing I could say, other
Right.
than I'd been told it all my life, and it took me that long to figure it out because of my daughter.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
uh
No.
and
Totally.
so
Because when
it's
it becomes personal, it's
yeah,
such a different experience than
yeah,
just thinking about it cerebrally. You know.
yeah.
There. Oh, Amy, did you want to say something?
I kind of want to add, yeah, I just have a, I mean, I agree with everything you guys are saying, but it's like I also just had a interesting experience where I was just, I also always felt like I was a pretty open minded person, but just so shocked by the depth of my real privilege and the
Yeah.
perception of that I actually found like I was just kind of more just shutting up and just
Mm.
listening, which is not my typical personality at all.
Right.
And just for just a learning, but also just so fearful of offending, you know.
Totally. 100%. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I hate to admit that too, and I feel that way, and I'm trying to like just get over it. Get over
Yeah,
it.
move through it for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
we've been involved in our school district has adopted a diversity in education initiative,
Mhm.
and it and and while our district is a blue district for the
Mhm.
most part, I mean, it used to be Daryl Ice's district, so there's still um, this
Affection.
contingent, and so a very, let's just say, evangelical church sent out a
Uh-huh.
bunch of minions to this listen and learn sessions that they were having, sending like 300 people out to sit at the tables and say, and almost to a T, every single one of them sat there and said, "There's no more racism in America."
Oh my god.
And Amy should
And
tell.
not wanting to talk about gender. I mean,
Right, and
Right.
transgender just was.
they wanted to talk about trans issues, and which had nothing to do with the diversity initiative at
Mhm.
hand.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so and Amy can speak better to it because she was there and I wasn't. But in the conversation in my mind, I am like, of course you think that because you are white, and you have never experienced it.
That's right.
So, discrimination based on your skin color. So therefore, you have not, as again, as woke as I am, until I'm in my 40s, do I get to actually feel it and see it and understand it from even, and I'm still, one removed from it. So it's not,
For sure. For sure.
I'm not
Right.
trying to claim that.
Right. No, totally.
But when people say things like that, I can't sit still anymore. I can't.
Right.
I can't because that's actually the most racist thing you could possibly say.
Yeah. And honestly, Tiger, that's one of your best traits. Is you are such a loud ally. That it serves well.
Being willing to open your mouth even if you make a mistake,
Yeah.
It just we all make mistakes. We have to learn. We're here to learn, and that's what it's about. And on that note, have you guys heard of there's a transracial adoption camp that happens every year, and one happens on the West Coast and one happens on the East Coast. Our agency, Extraordinary Families, told us about it, and we weren't able to do it this year because we're moving, but next year we really want to do it, and it's for the whole family, and it's just for 1 week solid. It's all transracial adoption families, and they just do workshops and talk through things, and the kids do their own track, and then the parents do their own track, and obviously the kids get to meet other kids who have parents
mixed families.
Yeah. It's
that's awesome.
I'll link to that in the show notes as well, because I think that just sounds incredible. It sounds like a great opportunity. Yep.
Totally. Yeah, that sounds great.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So getting back to the story of you guys. So you bring her home. She's 1. You're adjusting. Did you have visits with any of the biological family? What was that like?
Yeah, after we were with Z for about 2 weeks, after Z was in our home for about 2 weeks, we started 1-hour visitations with the birth mother every 2 weeks. And that was pretty much the cadence that we were led to think it was going to happen. Through this, our purpose in fostering was foster to adopt. But especially through the county, there's no promises,
That's right.
Parental right termination was the next court date. It had been set for the next court date. So that was the track. That was the track we were on. It was already,
right. So the listeners, just so they understand, so every case is a foster case until it's an adoption case, and it's not an adoption case until the parental rights have been terminated. So when you came in, the next step was already going to be TPR.
She came to us in late April, and mid-June was the next court date, and TPR, termination of parental rights, was on the docket for that.
Okay. And so how did that play out? But they were still doing visits. Did they want? Were they weren't confident in the woman's ability to?
Right. There had been a prior child had been removed and
was in the system already.
Right. Okay. Much of which we knew nothing about. It's not our story. And so, but so services had not been given to the biomom, and this is the track it was on. A family member that had been offered Z at the time and passed, came back once they learned adoption was going to happen, and that's what derailed the parental rights termination for about 2 years.
Okay, so she had already been with another foster family. Yeah.
She had been with a family friend.
With a family friend.
Yes.
But it was an illegal placement, illegal from the system's term, not ours.
And so that's why they were trying to.
It was an auntie, and so a elderly family friend, and Zarina definitely was very, very loved her first year. I mean, her buoyancy is phenomenal. But she lived in a home with a very kind lady. We met her a few times, who had she was either in I can't remember what the wheelie thing's called. what's that bumper?
A
Like you
walker.
put a kid in. Oh my gosh.
Okay. Right. The
She
thing
was
that they
either
ride
in,
around. Yeah.
yes, thank
Okay.
you. I'm just forgetting what it's called.
Yeah.
She's either in that or in a crib or in a high chair or in a car seat, but she was never left to like move on her own.
Mm-hmm.
So there were some concerns on mobility,
Uh-huh.
but mentally and her spirituality were just very vibrant.
Okay. Okay. And but it was illegal in the sense that she wasn't
She was,
certified to be a foster family
yeah.
home.
Thank you.
Again, we're not entirely sure
Okay.
why they had to remove her quickly
I see.
from
Okay.
her first placement, but it
No, I
happened.
remember
Oh,
Ty.
did they told? Okay,
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm old. I
It's
don't know.
okay. You were correct in your assumption. She was not a certified foster parent,
Uh-huh.
and so she was taking care of the child. And it sounds like she was starting to the process, but not really. And but Zarina had been living in her home, ever since
Gotcha.
the onset.
Gotcha. And so then, so you start visits, TPR happens, and then the aunt comes back and says, "Wait a minute, I want."
TPR didn't
Is that how
happen.
it? Oh,
No,
TPR didn't
TPR
happen.
didn't happen at that
Okay.
Yeah,
time. At that
Okay.
time, it didn't happen. It then basically got
it got
postponed
delayed.
for years.
That's what you said. Yep. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yep.
And
and that was really the twist in the story.
Uh-huh.
Is once the biological aunt came into the picture, um, that immediately became the focus of DCFS as the right
Sure.
place for her to go, for Z to go.
Mhm.
There's already a half sibling in there. She's a well-known, foster parent. It was a no-brainer, but by the time actually that the aunt, I felt like it was closer to the 6 month mark before we met her, and she started getting visitations too.
Okay.
But it basically went from the start of the story to us having a 99% chance of adopting Z to within a year and a half, it being 99% chance that we were going to lose her.
Oh,
So it
God.
was just a very, just from our very small perspective in this whole story, it was really pretty traumatic and sad.
Mhm.
And our philosophy, I was so proud of, which was we wanted Zarina to know any biological family members, and
Yep.
we really wanted her to have relationships with them. And so we all the way through to the end had extended hands and to the family. And once DCF kind of shifted their focus onto the aunt, it was clear to us that there were a couple other weird things going on in the home that were inconsistent with what we knew the state knew.
Mhm.
And Tiger, why don't you take over a little bit at this
well,
point?
well,
Because you're
yeah,
more
no,
diplomatic.
just there were some things being reported back to us by Z,
Uh-huh.
and we reported them to DCFS,
Okay.
and so that started getting
Do you mean
getting
like things that were physically harming her, or just
no,
you don't have to be specific,
no, it's just
but
things that
Another person in the
by other
home.
people that wasn't supposed to be in the home,
okay. Okay.
and uh, and a type and that person apparently having disciplinary control and
Ah.
So yeah,
and
there was a physical. There were a couple
Okay.
physicals.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, there was.
Okay. Yep.
So we reported those things back, and then when it came down to DCFS wanting to remove Z to place with the bio ant, then we were able to convene a hearing at DCFS, and eventually we had the hearing, and much agonizing later,
Mhm.
agonizing like a month, 2 months later almost, we finally
Mhm.
got word that DCFS had changed and was not going to place Z with the ant anymore, and the adoption process would begin again. And
How?
and
Like, how
That
did that happen?
I know you just flew by a critical plot point.
well, yeah, I'm
We
just being vague.
I know you're fine. It's just like I want a homage here. We got to a point where we felt that Z was not being served. And
Uh-huh.
believe me, there was a lot of thought too on, are we the right choice? You know,
Right. Yeah.
she's sitting here now, and the aunt owned a home, and she seemed to have her stuff together, but it was it was the misrepresentation and the lies of what we knew was going on in the home
Mm-hmm.
to what was actually being shared that
Mm-hmm.
just immediately were like,
There are
something's up
reasons. There are
here,
reasons it was
and
being delayed instead of
there's
just
no
jumping
reason for
on a
being,
3-day notice right away.
Gotcha.
there's,
There
yeah,
were
So
red flags and yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
so
and that
there was
there's no reason for dishonesty. So we ended up getting a lawyer, and the lawyer was simply because we were just at a loss of like, a, we
an
didn't go
advocate.
through, and have representation or allies on our side.
Right.
And again, back to the motto of DCFS, reunification with family, right?
Yeah.
Of which we were not, even though she had now been in our home longer than she'd ever been anywhere, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so that was, and we
Can I
hired
ask
just
you?
the most mad. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask you about that because we were advised and counseled against hiring a lawyer um, because it would come off as too aggressive. And I remember being so angry because I was like, well, yeah, it's aggressive. Like
Yeah,
this is my child that I need
I
to,
know.
so
Yeah,
it was a very sticky situation. And what ended up, this was with my daughter, and it ended up that we retained the lawyer and then he wouldn't do it. He was basically like, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. And like he maybe advised us here and there once or twice, but like really he was just like, no, you just have to wait. You just have like, why did we retain a lawyer and pay you?
yeah,
But anyway, I
yeah.
mean, it all worked out. But I wanted to point out that it is a sticky situation to get into. It's like, when do you hire a lawyer? Do you hire a lawyer? Do you not? The county looks at it as being really aggressive sometimes, or the judge might see it that way. What was your experience of that?
I feel like we were already getting shut down and already in that aggressive category. And so what
Okay.
do we have to lose? It was
Ah,
honestly, it was our Hail Mary and our, we do want what's best for Z. And after all the agonizing of what's really best, just the fact that there were so many inconsistencies in story, we felt that it was this. And we found a lawyer who is just fantastic, Beatrice Fun, and FUNG, and she's based out of LA, and she partnered with us. Uh-oh, we lost
w-
Tiger.
we'll get him back. Hopefully he'll
Okay.
know to just come
Yeah.
on and we'll get him back.
She partnered with us, and just was really so compassionate, and also we're pretty practical people, and so there were a lot of things like, we know this person's living in the house because he's caring for the daughter,
Yep.
for Z, and what's, why are we hiding this? And she just was able to educate us on, this is very likely going to happen.
Uh-huh.
You're going to get a notice saying that the removal of the child from our home, and we'll get like a 5-day notice. We did get that, and Tiger was actually out on an acting gig out of the country when it came. Hi, Ty.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. Did you get my message?
No.
Oh, my Mac died, so I just had to switch over my phone real quick, and I got to go pick up Z in about 15 minutes.
Okay.
No problem.
Welcome back. I just talked about B and her magicness a little bit, and I'm just kind of wrapping up the story. We just got the removal notice, and you were out of the country, and I called B, and
The removal notice, meaning that Z was going to need to go.
Yeah, the DCFS had given their 3-day notice to remove, to put her in the biological aunt's
Okay.
home. Yes.
And
Wow.
B just said, all right. And she's like, she ended up, she just has a very unique mind. And she then told me that she's like, this is the best thing that could have happened to us, because now what it's done is it put the onus on the state to now prove why we were not the best place, instead of where they were before, which is, this is the best place. They kind of took their own power away.
Huh.
So we filed a grievance. She did. We signed everything.
Mm-hmm.
She filed a grievance and basically got the whole thing audited. And we went through that process, which was also surreal. And they just listened to everything. And this, the social workers were there, and the aunt was there,
Mm-hmm.
and we were in the room, and they just listened to all of it. And with love and compassion, B just blew him out of the water.
Wow.
And that's when everything shifted, and very quickly, I think within 3 months, our adoption was finalized.
Wow.
It
And
Well,
was
it took
insane.
another year. It took another year.
Z had remained with you the entire time. Like, she wasn't
Yeah,
removed, or was
she was
she
never removed. No.
Okay.
Yes and no. At the end, the last 3 to 4 months with her,
Mm-hmm.
the aunt had 56-hour visitations. So Z would leave
Wow.
our home Z would leave our home at noon on Fridays, and we would get her back late afternoon on Sundays.
Wow.
And it was crazy, like just the things that go through your mind too, of like, I wanted to almost like have a tracker on her just to know she was okay, because you don't know
Yeah.
where she is or what she's doing, and you just have to, either rely on faith or just, block it out until your kid's back home again. But she, for the most part, was very loved. But I look back on that and just how confusing that must have been for
Yeah.
her. I mean,
Yeah.
just the culture shock alone,
Yep.
and but
Yeah.
it built her resilience, and she's just beautiful. So
Absolutely. Okay, so it was finalized within 3 months after that, which is incredible. And did you
Well,
remain?
the adoption was a year later. The adoption
oh,
papers
I'm
were signed a year later.
Oh, okay.
sorry.
Okay.
But it was about 3 months when the court finally went back to court after the hearing, and the judge granted parental rights, terminated parental rights. Sorry.
Got it. And
Sorry.
then,
Thank you, Tiger.
Yeah.
Then there's no more visitations required.
Correct.
Did you stay in touch with the family, the biological family, or no?
We didn't, but I want to speak to that because that was
Mhm.
really tough for us, because that's the exact opposite of what we went in as and what we were
Mhm.
building.
Mhm.
And where we landed was we were just so mad at the end of just all the lies too. And she was smart and just trying to do what she thought was best at worst, maybe not. But where we landed was, we are not going to do outreach, but if anybody reaches out to us wanting to connect with her, we will absolutely always be open to revisiting and discussing that together to then decide what's best for Z.
Okay.
And it's been how many years now? 5 years, and nobody's called.
No.
And we
no,
do have
no, 8 years. Oh well.
Okay.
6 years. Sorry, 6 years since the adoption was finalized.
Hey, Tiger, do some math for me. Just kidding. Sorry. He's really bad at math.
That makes
But,
sense.
Yeah, it's been a
Right.
while, and we do have the birth mother and I for some time had been emailing in the early part, and so as far as I know, that's still a valid way to approach.
Do you ever feel compelled to reach out to them, or not really? You do.
I do.
And
The birth mom,
Uh-huh.
but sometimes to the aunt too, because of the half brother, right? That's an ache.
And the half brother did he remain in the biological family?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as we know.
Okay. And how old? What's the age difference between the
5
two?
years older.
Okay. And so you feel that you do feel that it's on your heart sometimes to reestablish connection. However, you haven't yet. Are you willing to speak to that? Because I'd love to hear, because I actually have a little bit of, not the same situation, but something similar. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
I feel, and Tiger, we haven't spoken about this recently. It's probably been a year or so since we've talked about this, but for me, I think it's wrong. I think that what is happening now is wrong, but there has been a lot of change in Z's life, and also just some diagnoses that she's just got a lot going on.
Yep.
That adding that element to it, and honestly, even opening our door to the aunt, because last we knew that that's the house that he was in,
Uh-huh.
is not exciting. It isn't a great idea, but I feel like it's something I want to explore in the next year or two for sure.
Yeah.
If Tiger and I are aligned.
Okay. And how do you feel about it, Tiger?
Well, this during the adoption process, the court, I can't remember if it was an order or a suggestion, said to I don't remember the name of the organization. It was called a consortium. Something.
Yeah, the consortium.
Yeah.
It's like a mediator.
Right, a mediator for post-adoption families.
Okay.
For both the adopted this was, I think, probably before our hearing, and it was, so we met with them, and then I believe the aunt did meet with them as well.
Once.
And then it came time to do another second round of mediation or whatever, and we were there, and the aunt didn't come through for and said she didn't want to. The idea being, whichever way the adoption went, if in fact we were not able to adopt her, and she did go for guardianship with the aunt, that there might be some way of including us as in that post scenario, because we have been with Z over a year at this point. Z was, was part of our family, and we were wanting to, we loved her, just want to be somehow in there if it didn't work out. And the aunt was the one who did cut that off, saying that she didn't want us to have contact post adoption, and didn't think it was going to, and didn't think that we were going to be able to adopt her. And
she didn't think we had a chance.
And so broke off. So I feel like the opportunity was there to kind of at least build some kind of framework, that, because there was some contention and some issues, and so I thought and my feeling is that had been rejected. Now I agree with Amy in that I think contact under the right kind of circumstances would be healthy for our child, particularly with her half brother and her biological mother. Mm-hmm. And I do think that I need some buy-in from Zarina beforehand.
Some asking. That was the other thing.
Is her desire to have this happen, because she doesn't show a lot of desire for that at this point in her life. I assume that will change. I know that will change.
And actually, Ty, that reminded me, that's kind of where we were. Either the bio family's coming back and asking, or Z is. And that's when we would reflect.
Gotcha. Okay. So, thank you for navigating that. I know it's difficult, and I just want to acknowledge how exhausting that whole process must have been for you. I know how exhausting it was for us, and ours wasn't nearly as stressful as that. So how long did it take you to recover from all of that once you finalized? And did it change you in some way? Did it change your relationship? Did it affect your relationship? What about that?
I'll let you know when I'm over it.
Okay.
That's so funny, Tiger, because I'm the same. Like, I think it's a hard PTSD.
Yes.
And I still, I just have to reason with myself on a pretty regular basis of, you're not going to lose her. Mm-hmm. And my sister, who had two children vaginally, said that that's a very common feeling. Like, she was always anxious about predators of some
Mm-hmm.
kind.
Mm-hmm.
And so to that, it feels like, regular motherhood. But I think that's a big concern.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And how it affected our relationship, I think that I am so proud of, I think we've always had a great respect and enjoyment of each other. And I think that how we navigated this as a team was just freaking amazing. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
so proud of that. And there's not many spaces you can really talk about that without sounding like a jerk. But
Right.
it just we just we were in lockstep every step of the way, and would talk to each other at every step of the way. And that's something that, good or bad, we weren't doing in the rest of our marriage. And so we
Right.
actually are legally divorced now,
Mm-hmm.
but we built, also beautifully, I think, a really amazing way of co-parenting,
Mm-hmm.
where we're bird nesting.
Mm-hmm.
And because
Can
neither
you
one of us wanted to lose a freaking minute with her, right? I
can you
mean,
say what that? Because I wasn't aware until I talked to Tiger on the phone previous to this recording. I didn't know. I hadn't heard that term.
yeah. So bird nesting was something that kind of came around in the 70s, so add a little hippie flavor to it. But it's the child stays in a home, and you and your co-parent go in and out of that home.
Mm-hmm.
So Z is always with her dog and her two cats and her toys, and there's never any like, oh shoot, I left this at my dad's house, or
Right.
oh, my mom has this. And people will do it differently. Some couples will rent an apartment and then they'll share that
Okay.
in the off time. But the way Tiger and I are doing it is he has an apartment that's about 10 minutes away from the house that Zarina lives in every day.
Uh huh.
And I'm with her in that house 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then I leave on Wednesday mornings,
Mm-hmm.
and he comes in and stays for 2 days. And then I come back Friday afternoons or after work or more, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm with her then until that next time. But Tiger's also over every weekday morning, around 6:30, to see her, to get her ready for school,
Mm-hmm.
and to take her to school.
Wow.
And then on weekends, you keep moving, Tiger. You're messing up the sound.
Sorry.
On weekends, there's flexibility. Like if I
Mm-hmm.
mean, usually that's my time, but I think what makes this work is we don't look at it like that. Like we're not jerks about it.
Right.
If he wants to go see a concert on a Wednesday or Thursday night when normally he would have Z, we both just try to support each other in our outside life too.
Sure.
He
It
Also,
has
is.
a
summer starts next week, so I'm basically daytime daddy through the week, here and centered around. I'm at the house right now, actually.
Uh huh.
It's here and centered here.
and Tiger's in a new relationship with somebody that's awesome, and Zarina's met her.
Mm-hmm.
When we got divorced, we had some rules about, just from books that we had read, that a new person shouldn't be introduced until about a year. But
Mm-hmm.
Z kind of discovered it, and we just made a uniform choice that let's not lie. And
Yeah.
so we're just very upfront with it. So it's it's working, I think, really well for us.
That's incredible. I just want to say, like, I just love hearing this, that you're both adults, you're grown-ups, you're putting your own stuff aside for your child, and you're making it as obviously it's going to be a disruption and a disturbance no matter what, but you're just trying to make that as gentle and easy as possible. And I just think that's really cool. So, congratulations to you two on that. And I hope it keeps working that way.
I think it's helping our relationship. I mean, I don't want to
Hmm.
speak for you on that one, Tiger, but I think we have a lot of warm feelings for each other that are not marriage material feelings,
Hmm.
but that are just helping the friendship and the care for each other.
Yeah. So this experience, you wouldn't say that this didn't, because sometimes people say, "Oh, it was such a hard experience that like our relationship couldn't like withstand it." But for you guys, it really wasn't this experience of the fostering to adopt that had the impact. It was just that you were growing apart in other ways.
Yeah.
But as parents, you guys are super aligned. And am I getting that right?
Yeah, usually when it comes to our child, there's no division. There's no there's no. We're rarely at loggerheads concerning her.
Yeah, well, there's a couple issues, but it's not
Right.
And so so of course, yeah, my relationship with Amy is she's the mother of my child. I got nothing but trust and respect and love for that. So
That's
so
beautiful.
it's that's one of a lot of reasons why I can kind of work out well.
Yeah, I know you have to go, Tiger. I want to ask you one quick question just
Sure.
about your situation now. So you're dating someone, and I understand that your
Yeah,
girlfriend.
I meant to put you guys in touch. If you still want that, let me know.
Oh, sure.
I
Yeah.
totally forgot.
We're good for this season, but I think but maybe in the
Yeah,
future.
she
So
has her own
she is
interesting
also,
story about it. Yeah.
and we don't have to go into her story, but I just want to point out it's just really interesting. She's fostering to adopt, and she was doing that when you met her, right? Is that correct?
Adopted? No, she's got 2
Oh,
thirds.
already adopted. She already adopted.
She adopted before we did.
Okay.
No, her boys are teenagers now, or
Okay.
newly minted teenagers.
Nice.
So yeah, but yeah, it was very strange because we met and not no discussion of adoption or anything prior to it. We just met, we're talking, doing whatever, and then both her boys are the same age, and I said, "Oh, are they twins?" And she goes, "No, I fostered to adopted my 2 boys," and I was like, "What?"
Wow.
And
That is
I
so.
foster adopted my kid.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It was very funny. He came back and he's like, Amy, it's like it was so serendipitous. I feel like it's kismet. And I'm like, all right, that's great.
That's not. I don't say things like that.
You actually really did, but I did not record you. So
well, listen, I want to let Tiger. Certainly, I know you have to go pick up your daughter.
Yeah, I got about 15 minutes.
Amy, if you want to stick around for a few more minutes, cool. Or if you're, if you are ready to get off, we can do that too. Because I do have like maybe 1 or 2 other questions. If you want to,
I can
around.
stick.
Amazing.
I can stick for sure.
Okay,
right.
cool. And then,
and if you need anything, Rachel, let me know, and I'll put you in contact with Jay to if you guys want to talk for next season or anything.
Very cool. And listen, just leave that. Don't get out of just leave your setup and leave it up. I can mute you.
Okay. I got you on my phone now, so I got to take my phone with me.
Oh, it's your phone. Okay. Yeah, not a problem. So you know what? Maybe we should just end the recording. You guys are awesome. I love the way you're navigating this next step of your relationship together and doing it with the utmost regard for your child, which a lot of people forget about or try to do but don't do a great job at. And it seems like you guys are just killing it. I'm so happy that you came on and shared your story with me today.
Thank
you.
Thanks for the opportunity. And I highly encourage people to foster to adopt. There's such a need.
That was the only thing I was going to ask you is, would you, what, even as hard as it was, would you do it again?
Absolutely. We all grew as people, the good or the bad. And it's just, absolutely would. I mean, Z's very much our child, and like that, a few magical moments that prove that very early on. But yeah, I would again in a heartbeat.
Amazing. All right, you guys. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Rachel.
Take care.
Bye, Ty.
Bye.